Hello guys and welcome back to a brand new video from me, Pickles Parker Reviews. Yes, I'm doing another Series 13 news video. I know I'm just doing too many of these at the moment, but that's because we seem to be getting quite a lot of news for Series 13, which is odd because usually Chris Chibnall's production team seemed to be quite under wraps. We basically knew nothing going into Series 12, but because of COVID and all those sorts of stuff, essentially we know more about Series 13 than we did about any of the other Chibnall series, which is a double-edged sword. It's nice, it's obviously good for me reporting on it because it gets me views, but also it's nice to know more to get you excited going into a series. But then also, on the other hand, it's also not very good because if the production team wants something to be a surprise, the likelihood is that that will be spoiled due to people taking set photos and all those sorts of stuff, which unfortunately can't be helped because they can't lock down all these sorts of stuff because of COVID. But anyway, that's besides the point, because the Series 13 news we've got now is not because of set photos or any of those sorts of stuff. It's actually from John Barrowman just posting a picture. John Barrowman is notorious for just going around and spoiling things. He's like almost like the Tom Holland of Doctor Who. He'll just go and, post and do videos and spoil loads of things. There's all the stuff where he walked onto the Revolution of the Daleks set, when that hadn't even been released or announced or anything like that. So ultimately he kind of spoiled that in a sense. But he's gone, and while nothing's confirmed, it seems as if this gives us a pretty major indication that John Barrowman is returning as Captain Jack in Series 13. Now, there was a picture of him essentially saying, "I'm going back to England, woohoo," and many people thought, Is Captain Jack coming back? But, I didn't know this, but apparently Captain Jack is a judge on Dancing on Ice, so it made sense for him to travel back to England to appear as a panellist on that show as well. His hair was all grey, so it seemed unlikely that, he was coming back to the UK to film Doctor Who. It seemed much more likely that he was filming for Dancing on Ice, and that's probably still true. However, John Barrowman has posted a picture, essentially a selfie of him next to Ianto's shrine, saying, "Out for my walk, and nobody knew it was me," paying some respect to Ianto. Now, obviously, this could just be John Barrowman just going to Wales just because he feels like it, taking a walk in Cardiff just because he feels like it. But ultimately, that feels like quite a big coincidence when you think about it. It seems pretty likely that he's in Cardiff because he's filming for Doctor Who Series 13, because obviously we know that Doctor Who Series 13 is underway despite the lockdown, and it's pretty likely that he would be filming some stuff for Series 13. It's not confirmed, but it's pretty likely. So if he is returning in Series 13, what are my thoughts on that? And I'm pretty mixed. I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of Captain Jack in Series 12. I thought John Barrowman was great, but his character seemed to fulfill no other purpose than RTD nostalgia. His time in Revolution of the Daleks, most of it is dedicated to him just recalling the good old days of RTD Doctor Who. He references the Beauchene Peninsula, he references Rose, what she did to him in Parting of the Ways, her last name, and her fate in the parallel universe, which is very odd. And all these sorts of stuff. It feels as if Captain Jack was only there just to be walking RTD nostalgia, and I've discussed my issues with that before. The show needs to move forward and not constantly just try and, nudge to the audience, say, "Remember when the show was like this? Hey, you remember when the show was like this? Well, we're back to that," even though they're not back to that. The show is facing an identity crisis, and I feel like it's not a very healthy position for the show to be in, because to constantly be yearning for a time in the show that just isn't around anymore. It's not the RTD era anymore, guys, and unfortunately RTD nostalgia is a big problem in the fan base at the moment in terms of how the show is being marketed to the fan base. Time Lord Victorious is its own can of worms in terms of centering on the 10th Doctor, the 10th Doctor being in the 13th Doctor game, all these sorts of stuff, and Captain Jack seemed to just fulfill that role. All he does is just reference Parting of the Ways pretty much. He has some good scenes in Revolution of the Daleks, but he also has a lot of scenes where it's like, you're clearly just here for Tennant nostalgia and nothing nothing else, to be quite honest with you. And also, I found that his relationship with Jodie was a bit I mentioned this in my initial reaction for Revolution of the Daleks, but ultimately why Captain Jack worked with Eccleston and Tennant is that those two doctors were fairly masculine, and therefore you had almost like a battle of machismo between the two, where it was almost a bit of like a masculine rivalry between the pair, which was what brought up a lot of comedy, especially in something like The Empty Child. You've got the Doctor with Rose, and all of a sudden this younger man comes in, and there's a lot of fun to be had with that. So it's almost like a bit of masculine rivalry, you know, making fun of, you know, machismo essentially, which obviously you can't do with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor because she's a woman. Also, you obviously had those innuendos there between the Doctor and Jack that obviously, because the 13th Doctor is a woman, you just can't do, mainly because they wouldn't be funny, because obviously it was funny because it was two gay men. That was where the main source of comedy came from. Obviously if it's a man and a woman, it just wouldn't be as funny. And also in the current climate, it would feel weird to see the Jack try and hit on the Doctor when the Doctor's a woman. I don't know, it's just a big can of worms essentially that I don't think the show would touch, and it doesn't touch in Revolution of the Daleks. So their relationship is just, oh Jack, I love you Jack, in terms of you're great friends, and they're all hugging, and ultimately it becomes a lot more of a generic Doctor-companion relationship, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like the same relationship that Jack had with Eccleston and Tennant, and I feel like they didn't really try to evolve the relationship too much. But I feel like Captain Jack doesn't really work with the 13th Doctor, and doesn't really work with any other Doctors that aren't Tennant and Eccleston, to be quite honest with you. Those were my problems with how Captain Jack was portrayed in Revolution of the Daleks. So whether I'd want him to come back, I don't know. I feel like John Barrowman still gave a good performance, so I'd like to see John Barrowman come back. And ultimately, if they were to do interesting stories that require him to be there, and actually have a reason for him to be there, then yeah, I'd be pretty excited. But ultimately, if they just treat him how he is in Revolution of the Daleks, then I wouldn't be that excited, because he didn't really have a position to be there other than walking Tennant nostalgia. And his relationship with Jodie, it was fine, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't the same relationship he had with Eccleston and Tennant, and it showed that he was tailor-made by the RTD era. This isn't the RTD era anymore, so surprise, surprise, Captain Jack doesn't work in the Chibnall era. But, you know, regardless of that, if they could find something interesting to do with him, I'd be happy with it. But it's all about finding something interesting to do with him, and making sure he bounces off the Doctor and Yaz better than he did in Revolution of the Daleks, shall we say. But this isn't confirmed, this is all rumour. Who knows, he could be filming a new edition of Torchwood, which would be pretty cool. But, you know, regardless of that, you know, is he returning to Torchwood? Is he returning to Doctor Who? Is he just having a stroll in Cardiff because he feels like it? Who knows? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. Do you want him to come back? Do you not? Whatever. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoy this video, leave a like, drop a sub, and hit that notification bell to stay notified for all my latest videos. And thank you guys for watching. And of course, a goodbye.